1980s USSR. The entire country was preparing to host the next Olympic Games. People were celebrating and preparing to support their teams. The capital city of Moscow was being adorned with decorations. Everything seemed perfect. However, the 1980s also became a time when one of the most notorious serial killers, Anatoly Nagiyev, became the worst nightmare of the entire country. He was killing those women who reminded him his idol, his favorite singer Alla Pugacheva, who was considered the Madonna of the USSR. Who was that crazy man, and why would he try to murder one of the rising stars in the country? Hello everyone, and welcome back into the room where even walls have ears. Thank you very much for clicking on this video, and I hope you will enjoy it. First of all, I want to thank all of you for subscribing to my channel, for watching my videos, because your support means a lot to me. I want to thank you for all the previous views and comments that you have left on my previous videos. And I hope you will be active and help me to grow this channel. Thank you very much. Today we will talk about a case that happened in Russia, or to be more exact, in the USSR. Actually, this is my third video about that region, and I hope you will like and support it. The 80s were wild and very dynamic all around the world, and the same can be said about the USSR. Actually, in 1980, the capital city of Moscow became the host city of the next Olympic Games. And people were preparing for that occasion, and they were looking forward to meeting foreigners in a communistic society. They wanted to show their country from the best angle. That decade can also be marked as the starting point in the career of the superstar Alla Pugacheva. Probably most of you heard this song. Back then, she was USSR's Madonna and was as popular as Taylor Swift nowadays. Of course, as it generally happens with famous people, she had tons of fans. However, she had not only a fan base, but also haters. But one exceptional admirer named Anatoly Nagiyev was trying to get her love, and if she refused, he would kill her. Why would he do that, and who was Anatoly Nagiyev? If you are interested, keep watching, and let's dive into this case right away. Anatoly Guseinovich Nagiyev was born on January 26, 1958 in Angarsk city in the Irkutsk district. He was not the only child in his family. He had a brother and a sister. When he turned 5, his family moved to the Ivnitsa village in the Kursk district. According to some sources, he moved only with his mother because his father had left them before that. He was quite a problematic child. He ran away from the house and even from the school he was attending. He had an aggressive personality and would try to solve all the problems with aggression. His peers were afraid of him because he was professionally doing gymnastics and athletics, so he could beat absolutely anyone. The goal of all the sports he was into was the dream of becoming a circus artist. Even though he was attractive enough and had good physiques, he had the trouble of making a girlfriend and generally had a lot of issues with the opposite sex. He was just 165 centimeters tall, and later, during the psychological assessment, he was diagnosed with the Napoleon complex. Basically, he would try to compensate for his short height with temper and aggression. Probably that was the main root of all the problems. He was also teased because of his height. After a lot of trials and failures, he got a lot of insecurities and started hating women. However, he had very good skills of an extrovert and could become the part of any group of people. Anatoly committed his first murder when he was just 17. His victim was a young lady working in a lab who rejected him. In May 1975, he forced her to have sex with him. She was afraid of reporting to the police, so Anatoly remained unpunished. After he felt himself unpunished, he decided to repeat the attack. His second victim didn't report on him either. Only the third victim, who was his ex-classmate, decided to report him.
He was sentenced to 6 years of imprisonment. He was jailed in the Communist Republic in USSR. The first night in jail, his cellmates decided to humiliate him, but the response of Anatoly was so harsh that the prisoners didn't want to deal with him once again. After that, he got his nickname Besheny, or in English, Madman or Mad One. Even though he was a nightmare for other prisoners, he was very polite with the officers and prison personnel.
While being imprisoned, he would listen to Alla Pugacheva, who was back then a rising star. So his main aim was to get the love of the singer, and if not, to get her by force. In 1979, he was transferred to a lumber camp where he was serving society. There he was given a little freedom because his behavior in the jail was satisfactory. 46 kilometers from the camp was Pechora City, where prisoners were allowed to have time when they were not working. The rules of the camp led them to walk freely.
On January 30, 1979, on the train station square, he noticed a lady who reminded him Alla Pugacheva. They talked for a bit and later he was sitting at her place. According to some sources, she invited him herself. Other sources state that he insisted on going to her place after he said he would help her to find her son who was missing. Of course, his plans were different from just helping her. As soon as he was inside, he grabbed a knife and stabbed her at least 30 times. After he was convinced that she was dead, he had sex with the deceased and left. The first couple of days, he was very conscious and was afraid that the police would come to arrest him every time he heard some noise, but he quickly got to know that no one even suspected him of the murder. Thus, he could continue killing innocent people.
In May 1979, he met his next victim. Anatoly got on a train after bribing the train conductor. The young lady who happened to be in the same cabin with him was an accountant from Sosnogorsk City who was temporarily working in Pechora City. The reason he attacked her was her resemblance with Alla Pugacheva.
He offered her to have sex with him for the remaining 30 minutes before they would arrive. She rejected and insulted him. Then he got furious and stabbed her with a knife. He robbed her, removing all jewelry. He placed the body into the luggage compartment and fled to the neighboring railway carriage. He arrived in Pechora City without any problems. The body of the lady was found only after a couple of hours upon arrival. The conductor who was bribed figured out that the intruder was the same person who got into the train without the ticket, but he didn't share the information with the police because he was afraid of responsibility. After the forensic medical examination, small drops of semen were found on the body of the victim from the train. Thus, the authorities stated that the previous 2 murders and the murder on the train were committed by the same person. But because of lack of clues, the investigation got stuck.
Meanwhile, Nagiyev spent more months in the camp, and in November of 1979, he was released after he applied for parole. He went back to Ivnitsa village and became a nomad cinema mechanic. He would basically travel to different cities and show movies to people. He was also attacking girls and forcing them to have intimacy with him. Fortunately, he didn't kill them. According to some sources, in just 10 months, he committed around 30 attacks.
In July 1980, he thought he was ready for his main goal, to get Alla Pugacheva. He went to Moscow. Of course, he didn't buy a ticket. He was begging the conductor so that she would let him in, saying to her that he needed to visit his sick mother in Moscow. The railway carriage was almost empty, so she allowed him to get in. Little did she know he would become her executor. He noticed that the train conductor looked like Alla Pugacheva. When Madman offered her to spend some time with him, it outraged her. She rejected his offer offensively. He got mad, attacked her, and stabbed her. After that, he attacked the other train conductor who became a witness. After murdering 2 women whose last names were Zizulina and Derevyanko, he started checking the cabins of a railway carriage one by one to get rid of all possible witnesses. 2 ladies who didn't even hear how he attacked the conductors became his next victims. They were Maria Lopatkina and Tatiana Kolesnikova, who got on the train in Khabarovsk City and were heading to Moscow.
An electrician mechanic who was sleeping in an empty cabin wasn't touched by Anatoly. He woke up from a female's scream from the neighboring cabin. He thought passengers got drunk and were debauching.
Suddenly, the door to his cabin opened and the electrician saw Nagiyev covered in blood holding a knife. The electrician said that he would never forget the eyes of the intruder. Anatoly was looking right into his soul. After standing on the doorstep, the intruder just left. The electrician locked the door of the cabin and was praying for his life. That day, he survived. Anatoly got off the train at the next station, and the electrician Alexander was found by the police officers at the Kursk station. The police later said that the railway carriage was covered in blood.
After the murder, Anatoly needed to get rid of the bodies. Thus, not far from the city named Oryol, he started randomly throwing bodies outside of the train, where they later would be discovered. All 4 victims were brutally murdered, raped after the murder, and robbed.
Undoubtedly, the police at first decided that the electrician was the very killer they were looking for. The police didn't even believe his words about how he saw the real killer. Officers were trying to prove him guilty that they even covered his boots with the blood of victims. Understanding that the police were trying to show him as the murderer, the electrician asked for help from a foreman who was aware of a person without the ticket, and the latter confirmed the words of the electrician. Moreover, he even described the appearance of Anatoly.
The madman reached Moscow and started chasing Pugacheva. One night, he waited for her next to the entrance to the building where she was living and slipped inside after her. He was about to get her next to the elevator, but the vigilant concierge scared him when asked what he was doing there. Meanwhile, the singer got into the elevator and went upstairs. She didn't even realize how lucky she was. Puzzled, Anatoly stood there, couldn't answer, and just left the place.
After that incident, he went back to Ivnitsa village where he tried to hide all the belongings he stole from his victims. One of the rings with a diamond he gifted to his fellow who was imprisoned with Anatoly in the same jail. His friend wore the ring on his pinky finger but couldn't take it off. After his finger got swollen, he went to a jeweler asking for help. But he didn't know that all jewelry shops in the suburbs got the exact description of all the belongings that Nagiyev stole. The vigilant jeweler asked the man to come back in 30 minutes and called the police right away. The suspicious client was arrested by the police and he told them where he got that ring from.
Officers went to the apartment of Nagiyev, but there was only his mother. She didn't even try to protect or recover her son. She said that he was probably spending his time with his girlfriend in the Dnipropetrovsk. Police officers found the exact address of that girlfriend in the handbook of Nagiyev that he was hiding in the freezer. They also found the exact address of Alla Pugacheva and other women. He was literally obsessed with the singer.
He was finally arrested on September 12, 1980. He was denying all allegations. The police decided to beat the confession out of him by placing him with the most dangerous and aggressive felons. However, as a result, one of his cellmates lost his eye and the other almost became a cripple. Meanwhile, Anatoly was contemplating his escape plan and was maintaining good physical stamina. Once he tried to escape from the jail in the city of Oryol, he noticed that one of the windows on the second floor of an isolator didn't have metal bars. While being taken to another interrogation, with just one move, he broke handcuffs, pushed the officers with his head, and jumped out of the window. He landed on the chessboard that the officers were playing in the yard. He got a back injury and was caught and put into jail again. He was transferred to another jail in Kursk, and a very special type of handcuffs was being used for him.
After that, he started talking. He started talking about the murders that the investigation didn't even relate to him. As a motive for his murders, he said that he would feel the smell of his prey, and that turned him into a beast. He tried to run away several more times. In June 1981, he broke an aluminum spoon and stabbed himself with it. Of course, he was hospitalized, but he was under constant surveillance, so it was almost impossible for him to escape that day.
During his trial, his behavior can be described as especially aggressive. He was cursing the judge and the prosecutor. He was charged with 6 murders and got the maximum possible sentence, execution by firing squad. He was also trying to show himself as a mentally unstable person, but all psychiatrists as one stated that he was 100% aware of everything he was doing. After the trial, when he was giving a word, he said, "I'm the soldier of the elite and I'm leaving you." He tried to escape for the 4th time, while being transferred to the jail in the city of Novocherkassk, where his death sentence must be executed. On August 19, 1981, he was waiting to get on the train with 10 other felons. The train arrived late at night and the officers were trying to get all felons into the prison as soon as possible. As a result, one of the officers handcuffed Anatoly's hand, not behind him but in front of him. Anatoly waited until another goods train approached, crossed the rails and went running. Officers couldn't catch him and he escaped.
The search for Anatoly Nagiyev started once again. When the police officers were sent to help from another city, the commander-in-chief had one order. He said, "If something happens, do get him by all means. Get him even dead."
The police were looking for him for more than a month. They were searching for him with the help of helicopters. Officers were dispatched to train stations and they were looking for him in forests and villages. They kept watching over all his family members and his relatives' houses with the hope they could catch him. They were thoroughly scrutinizing his handbook. They even scrutinized all the information about him related to his very first sentence and finally got a clue. Back then, he was keeping correspondence with a lady from Rostov district. First, police officers were looking for him there, but they were not able to detect him. Meanwhile, the villagers said they saw a short man who was wearing sports clothes one day and a female gypsy clothes the other. They also said he was living in a hay pile in the middle of the field. The police decided to check the clue. In the hay pile, there was no one, but they found clothes, products, and a handmade calendar. The calendar was starting on August 19, 1981, the day when Anatoly could escape. They ambushed him next to the pile. Nagiyev, after being caught off guard, tried to run away, but after realizing he couldn't run far, decided to attack one of the officers. The officer shot him, but even after being injured, the madman was resisting the arrest. Finally, a couple of officers could arrest him together. His condition was critical and the doctors were trying everything to save him. They could stabilize his condition. After he got his consciousness back, he tried to ask one of the nurses to help him escape.
He was sent to Novocherkassk. He was hoping that after the escape and the attack on a police officer, there would be another trial that would save his life. But he was wrong. Till his very last sigh, he was trying to save his life. He was attacking his cellmates, cursing police officers, and behaving aggressively. Finally, on May 5, 1982, the death sentence of 25-year-old Anatoly Nagiyev was executed by a firing squad. Every single person in the country could take a deep breath. Well, this is pretty much everything I wanted to share with you this time, guys, and thank you very much if you watched this video till the very end. What do you think of Anatoly Nagiyev, by the way? To be honest, when I was preparing script for this video, I had goosebumps all over my body. So I would love to hear your own opinion on this case. So if you want to share your own opinion, feel free to leave your comment in the comment section below. If you like my work and if you want to support my channel, click the like button and don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you won't miss any new videos. And you can make me happy. If possible, share this video with people you know so more people will be aware of this story. And as always, take care of yourselves and see you next time.